Hello everyone, today's video is by viewer request. You guys are what makes this channel. What you think, feel, and have to say will be heard. So if you want to speak your mind, leave a comment or request a video topic. Today's request was to talk about Wall Street and Democrats. So let's dive deeper into the article I found. Members of Congress who own stocks might face ethical dilemmas when they shape laws that could hurt or help their portfolios. Recent scrutiny has forced the issue of congressional stock trading into the limelight. Potential conflict of interest is blatantly obvious. Lawmakers should focus on the most efficient legislation and not what might best serve their financial interests. Sure, some laws achieve both, but voters shouldn't have to worry if their Washington representatives' stock portfolios would benefit from or influence directly their decisions as lawmakers. However, a lawmaker who owns shares in America's big banks might have different views on banking deregulation. It's been a turbulent year for the stock market, and that's one of the reasons congressional trading practices is in focus. Lawmakers receive briefings on the coronavirus pandemic before financial markets and the general public, giving them an informational advantage. Critics of congressional stock trading believe lawmakers must pass stricter regulations to keep members of Congress from dabbling in investments affected by the very laws they write. So let's watch a clip about this exact conversation that we're having now.
Much focus on the Fed and Fed officials who were actively trading while they were also moving to make some huge steps into the markets and the economy back in 2020. And that's kind of shifted now to looking at Congress and trades that Congress people are making while they are so actively involved in making decisions. You know, even a few lines in any bill can mean millions of dollars in trades one direction or another. What do you think about whether people in Congress should be allowed to actively trade while they are also overseeing all of this legislation and probably learning about things from security councils and other briefings that they get all the time?
Well, I don't think members of Congress should be directly involved in trading. I think you should have to turn it over, as I have when I got into Congress, to a third party and not be able to give any direction on the buying and selling. I'm also, of course, open to blind trusts, and we've got to get those actually executed in a way that is doable. And right now, the way the Congress has proposed them, it's not workable for most members. But the bottom line is this, Becky, it should be hands off. You should have to turn it over to a third party. You should not be directly involved in any of your trading, both either the buying or selling. And that's what I think.
There's some bipartisan support in Congress for limiting members' trading activity. The push comes after several lawmakers generated controversy over a financial transaction conducted by COVID-19 and was sweeping the country just before the lockdown began in 2020, which amounted to insider trading. According to Capital Trades, which tracks lawmakers' disclosures, members of Congress and their immediate family bought and sold $515 million in stocks and other assets over the past year. Analysis by Capital Trades showed the most active sectors were tech, energy, telecom, and media. Ossoff's bill would carry penalties for lawmakers who didn't comply with the rules. A person familiar with the proposal said Ossoff is seeking a GOP senator to co-sponsor the bill. Ossoff, who formerly ran a documentary film studio, has estimated his net worth to be several million dollars. In March, he put his own assets into a blind trust, fulfilling a 2020 campaign promise made amid accusations that Georgia's then senators, Republicans Dave Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, profiteered from the pandemic. Ossoff defeated Perdue in their election, while fellow Democrat Raphael Warnock unseated Loeffler, whose husband is chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. Perdue and Loeffler denied wrongdoing, and the DOJ dropped a probe of Loeffler's activity. Now let's watch another clip on why lawmakers shouldn't be directly involved in trading. Democratic Republican Abigail Spanberger of Virginia said she was dismayed by the allegations of insider trading on the Hill. She vented her frustrations alongside Representative Chip Roy while on the House floor. They decided to start working together on a proposal that would also require lawmakers, spouses, and dependents to use a blind trust while in office. Spanberger and Roy initially introduced the Trust in Congress Act in June of 2020. It was reintroduced for Congress, and 14 other lawmakers, Republicans and Democrats, have co-sponsored it. It's about accountability, but it's also about ensuring that the perception and the stability of constituents to trust us is much easier because they don't have to wonder about our motivations. Let's watch this final clip on this topic, and let's see what you think by the end of it.
Jay, here's the thing I don't understand. Clearly, Congress is unwilling to regulate itself. That has been the lesson for as long as I can remember. The only agency, and I wrote about this last year, so you know about it, the only agency that I believe actually has the authority to regulate this without Congress, if you will, though maybe it would go to court, would actually be for the SEC to try to put some policies in place on the assumption that you could argue that your job, meaning whoever's in that job, Gary Gensler today, is there to oversee the credibility of the markets, and anything that undermines the credibility of the markets, including politicians buying and selling stock before public information is available, undermines the value and credibility of the market. Obviously, who's ever in that seat doesn't want to do it because their budget is approved every year by Congress. And so how do you ever get to a place where you can, quote unquote, self-regulate people who don't want to be regulated?
Well, look, I think, Andrew, there's all sorts of separation of powers issues and the like there as to whether the SEC could actually impose rules on Congress. I mean, of course, the SEC enforces the securities laws. And if there is insider trading, and in fact, the SEC has brought cases, and during my tenure, we brought a case against a sitting member of Congress. That does happen. What have we seen here? We've seen pressure from the Hill on other agencies to adopt more rigorous rules. I would like to see the Hill with a little bit of self-reflection here. If they're pushing for those rules and it's part of their oversight, they should modernize their rules.
Do you think, in retrospect, either when you were in this position just a year and a half ago, or now that Gary Gensler's in this position, that somebody at the SEC should be making active proposals to maybe not regulate what is being bought and sold, but potentially you could create a whole disclosure scheme under the agency,
the SEC,
umbrella of the SEC. That would not be impossible. Now, it could get objected to, but it would at least change the conversation in a real way.
Well, I'd love to see it on a cooperative basis, Andrew. The SEC provides to members of Congress, House and Senate side, what we call technical analysis or technical assistance. The SEC could be part of the mix here as to designing the kind of program that we just talked about, one that draws on experience with executives, brokerage houses, the SEC's own rigorous ethics rules, and deals with some of these issues in a proactive way. I would encourage members of Congress who are pushing bills forward to consult with the SEC staff on these things. What has worked,
but Jay, let's be honest, how disappointed we had Gary Gensler on this show just earlier this week. Didn't want to talk about it. Didn't want to deal with it. And I will say
I have no doubt. I have no doubt that if a member of the House and a member of the Senate reaches out to the SEC and says, I want technical assistance, turn it around quickly, tell me what's worked, what hasn't worked, that the SEC staff will provide that.
Sure. The question, though, is should he be using his bully pulpit, if you will? You're, by the way, now that you're not in the seat, it appears you're willing to say, yes, there should be stronger policies in place. It's fascinating to me that Gary Gensler is unwilling to even say that.
Well, I'm in a much freer position now, Andrew. I'm a citizen. It's my view. Again, the relationship between Congress and the SEC. But look, I think that there's a general consensus.
So here are the key points. Congress doesn't want to regulate themselves. Authority to regulate this would be the SEC. This undermines the value and credibility of the government. The bottom line is that it would be a step in the right direction if lawmakers were forbidden to trade in individual stocks. If they want to own part of America, they can buy a mutual fund. Thank you to all my viewers. Again, if you'd like me to discuss a certain topic, leave a comment below and I will do my best to make it a video. Again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. I'll see you guys next time.